Have you ever wondered how far someone would go to break you? How public they'd make your humiliation? How many witnesses they'd gather to watch you fall? I found out at a Christmas party, in front of 300 people. While 7 months pregnant with my husband's child, they made me kneel, on marble floors, in a designer gown that suddenly felt like a costume. They made me thank the woman who was sleeping with my husband, his mistress, standing there in red silk, wearing the future I thought was mine. But here's the thing about breaking someone in public. Sometimes, the witnesses aren't on your side. Sometimes the humiliation you orchestrate becomes the evidence that destroys you. This is the story of the worst night of my life. The night I discovered my husband's affair, my mother-in-law's conspiracy, and a family secret that would bring down an empire. It's about kneeling and rising, about breaking and becoming whole, about losing everything and gaining yourself. And it starts with the sound of breaking glass. Stay with me, because what happened next, you won't believe it. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the Morrison mansion. But it wasn't an accident. My husband's mistress had just proposed a toast. To me, I stood in the doorway of the ballroom, 7 months pregnant and exhausted from the drive across town. The first red flag should have been obvious when Nate insisted I arrive separately for the surprise. Some surprise this turned out to be. 300 guests filled the space beneath crystal chandeliers that cast rainbow prisms across marble floors. A massive Christmas tree dominated the far wall, at least 20 feet tall, decorated with what I knew were Patricia's signature white and gold ornaments. Twinkling lights wrapped every column and doorframe. The string quartet played something classical and seasonal near the champagne fountain. And there, in the center of it all, stood my husband with his hand resting possessively on another woman's waist. My maternity gown suddenly felt like a costume. The deep green velvet that had seemed elegant in my bedroom mirror now felt ridiculous. Wrong. Like I'd dressed for the wrong party entirely. The woman turned to look at me. Young, maybe 25 to my 32. She wore red silk that hugged curves I used to have. Before the baby weight and the swelling and the constant exhaustion, her smile didn't reach her eyes. There she is! Nate's voice boomed across the ballroom, cutting through the gentle music and polite conversation. Everyone, my beautiful wife has finally arrived? Heads turned. 300 pairs of eyes found me standing there, one hand on my belly, the other clutching my purse like a lifeline. But something in Nate's tone sent ice through my veins. This wasn't the loving husband who had kissed me goodbye that morning, who had promised the party would be wonderful, who had said he couldn't wait to show me off. This was someone else entirely, a stranger wearing my husband's face. Come, darling, he called out, gesturing me forward. Don't be shy. I walked into the ballroom because what else could I do? My heels clicked against the marble. The sound seemed too loud, echoing off the vaulted ceiling. Every step felt like walking through water. The baby shifted inside me, pressing against my ribs. The woman in red silk watched me approach. Up close, she was even more beautiful. Flawless skin, perfect teeth, eyes like chips of ice. Rebecca, meet Vanessa, Nate said, his hand still on her waist. Vanessa, my wife. He said it so casually, like he was introducing colleagues at a business meeting, like his hand wasn't touching another woman, like my world wasn't tilting on its axis. So lovely to finally meet you, Vanessa said. Her voice was smooth, cultured, the kind of voice that came from expensive boarding schools and speech coaches. Nate has told me so much about you. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My throat had closed up completely. Champagne. A server appeared at my elbow with a tray of crystal flutes. She can't drink, Vanessa said before I could respond. The baby, you know. She placed her free hand on her own flat stomach, drawing attention to the difference between us. That's when I noticed it. The pitying looks from the other guests. The way conversations had stopped when I entered. The careful avoidance of eye contact from Nate's business partners. His sister Grace stood near the Christmas tree, her knuckles white around her wine glass. They all knew. Everyone in this room knew about Vanessa. Everyone except me. My hands started to shake. I fumbled for my phone in my purse. That familiar compulsion I'd developed over the past year. Unlock. Check for messages. Lock. Unlock again. Looking for something. Anything. Some explanation that would make this make sense. Nothing from Emma, my best friend. Nothing from Grace. Nothing from anyone. I was alone in a room full of people. Darling, you look pale, Nate said, finally dropping his hand from Vanessa's waist. Why don't you sit down? It's not good for the baby for you to overexert yourself. The concern in his voice sounded genuine. That's what made it worse. He could fake caring so perfectly that part of me wanted to believe it, wanted to pretend this was normal, that I was overreacting, but my body knew the truth. My heart hammered against my ribs. My palms went slick with sweat. The baby did a complete somersault, as if trying to escape. I think I need some air, I managed to say. Nonsense. A new voice cut through my fog. Patricia Morrison, my mother-in-law, appeared like a shark scenting blood in the water. She wore champagne-colored silk and diamonds that probably cost more than most people's houses. The party is just beginning. We have so much to celebrate tonight. She held 2 glasses of champagne. I watched as she handed one to Vanessa. The crystal caught the light, sparkling like the future I thought I had. None for the pregnant woman. Patricia's smile was all teeth. Shall we begin? She asked, looking at Nate. He nodded. Something passed between them. Some silent communication I wasn't part of. The string quartet stopped playing. The room fell quiet. 300 people turned to watch whatever was about to happen. And I stood there, 7 months pregnant, next to my husband and his mistress, while my mother-in-law raised her glass. To family, Patricia announced, and to new beginnings. The champagne toast echoed through the ballroom like a death knell. I watched 300 crystal flutes rise into the air. 300 people who knew something I was only beginning to understand. To family, they repeated in unison. The sound washed over me like a wave. Patricia's eyes met mine over the rim of her glass. There was no warmth there. No grandmotherly affection for the woman carrying her grandchild. Just cold calculation. Come, Rebecca, dear, she said, setting down her glass. Walk with me. There's someone I'd like you to meet properly. She linked her arm through mine before I could protest. Her grip was surprisingly strong for a woman in her 60s. She steered me away from Nate and Vanessa, through the crowd that parted like the Red Sea. People smiled at us as we passed. Fake smiles and pity smiles. The kind of smiles you give someone at a funeral. You're making a scene, dear, Patricia murmured, her voice too low for anyone else to hear. Standing there with your mouth open like a landed fish. It's unseemly. I don't understand what's happening. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Don't you, Patricia guided me toward the champagne fountain, a ridiculous 3-tiered monstrosity spouting expensive French champagne. Or have you simply been choosing not to see? We stopped near a cluster of Patricia's society friends, women in their 50s and 60s, dressed in designer gowns, dripping with inherited jewelry. They fell silent as we approached. Ladies, Patricia said smoothly, you remember my daughter-in-law, Rebecca? Of course, said Helen Winters, a woman who'd never spoken more than 3 words to me at any family gathering. How lovely you look. Pregnancy suits you. The other women made agreeable noises. Their eyes said something different. We were just discussing the spring benefit, Patricia continued. Rebecca won't be able to help this year. Of course, she'll have her hands full with the baby, but Vanessa has graciously agreed to take over as co-chair. The words landed like physical blows. Vanessa, taking my place, not just in my husband's bed, but in my life, my role, my position in this family I'd married into. How generous, I heard myself say. My voice sounded distant, disconnected from my body. Vanessa is quite accomplished, Helen chimed in. Did you know she speaks 4 languages and her work with underprivileged children is remarkable? Of course she was accomplished. Of course she was charitable and multilingual and perfect. Nathaniel has made his choice, dear, Patricia said, turning to face me fully. Her grip on my arm tightened. The question is whether you'll accept it gracefully or make this difficult for everyone. The words hung in the air between us. Make this difficult for everyone. As if I was the problem. As if I was the one creating this nightmare. How long, I asked. My throat felt like sandpaper. Patricia's eyebrow raised a fraction. How long has what been going on? The affair? How long have you known? She had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Only slightly. 18 months. Give or take. 18 months, a year and a half, while I'd been planning our future, while I'd been excited about the pregnancy, while I'd been playing the dutiful wife, and the family I pressed. When did everyone else find out? 6 months ago. Patricia's voice was matter-of-fact, clinical. After it became clear this wasn't simply a dalliance, that Nathaniel's feelings were genuine. 6 months. Christmas had been 6 months ago, the last happy holiday I could remember. Nate had given me diamond earrings, told me I was the most important person in his world, made love to me with what I thought was passion, all while knowing, all while planning this. The pregnancy, I said slowly, pieces clicking into place. You encouraged it. You pushed for it. Patricia's smile was thin. A child needs legitimacy. The Morrison name carries weight. We couldn't have Nathaniel's heir born out of wedlock. Heir, not grandchild, not baby. Heir. So I'm what, a surrogate? The bitterness in my voice surprised me. Don't be dramatic, dear. You're the mother of my grandchild. That's an important role, one that comes with certain privileges. Privileges, I repeated numbly. A comfortable allowance, a suitable residence, visitation rights. Of course, once the custody arrangement is finalized, the words crashed over me like ice water. Custody arrangement. They'd already planned it, already decided my baby's future without me. There are papers, Patricia continued, as casually as if discussing the weather. Already drafted, waiting until after the delivery. Of course, we wouldn't want the stress to affect the pregnancy. I pulled my arm free from her grip. You can't be serious. Can't I? Patricia's eyes hardened. Think carefully. Rebecca, what do you bring to this marriage? Your trust fund is comfortable but modest. You have no career, no particular skills. You've been playing house in Nathaniel's world for 5 years. Did you really think it was your sparkling personality that kept you here? Each word was a knife, precise, surgical, designed to cut deep. Vanessa, on the other hand, comes from old money, real money, European nobility. She understands our world, our expectations. She can be a true partner to Nathaniel as he grows the family business. I'm his wife, I said. The words sounded hollow even to me. You're an incubator, Patricia corrected. Her voice was almost kind, pitying. A pretty one, I'll grant you, but let's not confuse your purpose with your position. I wasn't a wife, I was a broodmare, and I'd been smiling through it all. The realization hit me so hard I had to grip the edge of the champagne fountain for support. My other hand went to my belly, feeling the baby move inside me, the baby they'd planned, the air they needed. I need to use the restroom, I managed to say. Of course, dear. Patricia's smile returned. Do freshen up. You look rather peaked, and do try to compose yourself before you return. Tears are so gauche at a party. I walked away on shaking legs. The bathroom seemed miles away, though I knew it was just down the hall. The sounds of the party followed me. Laughter, music, the clink of crystal glasses. The Morrison Mansion bathroom was obscenely luxurious. Marble floors, gold fixtures, fresh flowers in crystal vases. It smelled of expensive potpourri and lies. I locked myself in a stall and sat on the closed toilet lid, trying to breathe. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Unlock, lock, unlock. Still no messages. No one checking on me. No one wondering if I was okay. That's when I heard voices. Women entering the bathroom. Heels clicking on marble. Well, that was brutal even for Patricia, one said. I recognized the voice. Sarah Mitchell, a doctor friend of the family. She's protecting her interests, another replied. Claudia Chen, one of Patricia's tennis partners. Can you blame her that trust fund Rebecca brought is nothing compared to what Vanessa offers? Still, the poor girl, 7 months pregnant and publicly humiliated. She had to know, didn't she? I mean, 18 months is a long time to be blind to an affair. My breath caught. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Patricia said Nathaniel plans to marry Vanessa once the baby is born. Apparently there's some sort of arrangement. Rebecca keeps a comfortable allowance for appearances. Vanessa becomes the new Mrs. Morrison. Civilized, I suppose, in its own twisted way. Civilized, the man forced his pregnant wife to attend a party with his mistress. Well, what did she expect? She's beautiful enough, I suppose, but beauty fades, especially after children. Vanessa has breeding, education, the kind of sophistication Patricia values. I heard water running, the rustle of designer handbags being opened and closed. Do you think she'll fight it? Sarah asked. Rebecca, please. She's too passive, too eager to please. That's why Nathaniel chose her in the first place. She was never going to be difficult. Unlike his first wife? Exactly. Rebecca won't make waves. She'll take the money and the custody arrangement and fade quietly into the background. Mark my words. Their voices faded as they left. The bathroom door swung shut with a soft click. I sat there in the silence, hand on my belly, feeling my baby kick. Strong kicks, angry kicks. As if the baby knew. My hands found the faucet. I ran cold water over my wrists, an old trick my mother taught me for anxiety. The baby kicked hard against my ribs, as if in protest. In the mirror, I barely recognized myself, pale, hollow-eyed, a ghost of the woman I used to be. My phone buzzed. Finally, a message from Emma. Where are you? Just got here. This party is weird. Everyone's acting strange. I typed back with shaking fingers. Bathroom, second floor. Please come. 3 dots appeared. Emma typing. Then, on my way, I splashed more water on my face, careful not to ruin my makeup completely. Patricia was right about one thing. Tears were gauche at a party. I emerged from the stall to find Emma rushing through the door. Becca, what's wrong? You look... She stopped. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God, you know. Know what? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. About Nate and Vanessa. About the whole sick arrangement. Becca, I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you. I tried to tell you last week, but you seemed so happy about the baby shower, and I couldn't. Last week, my voice cracked. You've known since last week. Emma's face crumpled. Grace told me. She was worried sick about you. We both were. But we didn't know how to. I mean, you're 7 months pregnant. And everyone knew, I said flatly. Everyone but me. Not everyone. Just most people. Nate wasn't exactly discreet. I laughed. It came out wrong. Bitter. Sharp. Of course he wasn't. Why would he be? I was too busy being the perfect wife to notice. Emma grabbed my hands. This isn't your fault. You know that. Right. None of this is your fault. But was it had I been willfully blind? Choosing comfort over truth. Choosing the lie because it was easier than facing reality? I need to go back out there. I said, what? No. Becca, we should leave. I'll take you home. You don't need to. Yes, I do. I pulled my hands free gently. I need to see this through. Emma looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. I walked back toward the ballroom. Each step felt like walking through fire, but I kept going. The string quartet was playing again. That same classical Christmas music. Joy to the world. Peace on earth. Goodwill toward men. What a joke. I emerged into the ballroom to find Nate and Vanessa dancing. Slow dancing. In the center of the floor while everyone watched. And the song. Oh God. The song. The band was playing our wedding song. At Last by Etta James. The song Nate had chosen because he said I was worth waiting for. The song we danced to while our friends and family watched. The song that was supposed to mean forever. He was dancing to our song. With her, Nate saw me standing there. Our eyes met across the dance floor. He didn't stop dancing, didn't even pause, just smiled. That smile told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't thoughtlessness. This was intentional, calculated, designed to break me. And God help me, it was working. I walked across that dance floor like I was walking to my execution. Every eye in the room tracked my movement. The music swelled around me. That beautiful song now twisted into something ugly. Nate and Vanessa stopped dancing as I approached. She had the grace to step back slightly. He didn't. Enjoying yourself? Darling, Nate asked. His tone was pleasant, casual, as if we were discussing the weather. We need to talk. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Now really, he glanced around at the watching crowd. Can't it wait until after the party? No, it can't. Something flickered across his face. Annoyance, maybe, or calculation. Very well. What's so urgent? The baby kicked hard. A reminder that this wasn't just about me anymore. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling the movement beneath my palm. How long? I asked quietly. How long? What? Rebecca, you'll need to be more specific. How long have you been sleeping with her? A collective intake of breath rippled through the nearby guests. Someone's champagne glass clinked too loudly against another. Nate's smile didn't waver. Is this really the time and place? You made it the time and place. Dancing to our wedding song. With her. It's just a song. Rebecca, don't be dramatic. Don't be dramatic. I'd heard those words so many times over the past year. Whenever I questioned where he was, whenever I asked about the late nights, whenever my instincts screamed that something was wrong. Just tell me the truth, I said. That's all I want. The truth. Nate looked at Vanessa. She gave a tiny nod, then walked away. The crowd parted for her like water. When we were alone as two people could be in a room full of 300 witnesses, Nate's expression changed. The pleasant mask slipped away. What remained was something colder, harder. You want the truth? His voice was low, dangerous. Fine. Yes. I've been with Vanessa for 18 months. Yes, everyone knew. Yes, it's serious. Yes. We plan to marry once you've delivered the baby and the divorce is finalized. Is that truth enough for you? Each word was a bullet. I felt them hit, felt them tear through me. Why? It was all I could manage to say. Why? He laughed, actually laughed. Because you're not enough. Rebecca, you never were. You're pretty enough, sweet enough, pliable enough, but that's all you are. Enough. Not exceptional, not extraordinary, just enough. I'm not imagining this. Every instinct I ignored was right. The thought came unbidden but clear. All those nights I'd lain awake wondering if I was crazy, if I was paranoid, if I was seeing problems where none existed. I wasn't crazy. I was right. You knew, Nate continued, his voice almost kind now, pitying. Deep down, you always knew. You just chose comfort over dignity. The words landed like a physical blow, because part of it was true. Part of me had known, had felt the distance growing, had noticed the way his eyes slid past me, had registered the growing coldness in his touch. But I'd chosen to believe the lie. Chosen the beautiful house and the society parties and the promise of a perfect family over the ugly truth. I gave you everything, I whispered. You gave me what I asked for. There's a difference. Nate straightened his cufflinks, a gesture I'd seen him make 1,000 times before business meetings. Now, if you're quite finished with your little scene, Mother has an announcement to make. An announcement, you'll see. His smile was back, cruel and sharp. Consider it a Christmas gift. He walked away, leaving me standing alone in the center of the dance floor. The music had stopped. The room was silent except for the rustle of expensive fabric and the clink of jewelry. Then Patricia's voice rang out, clear and commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. She stood near the Christmas tree, illuminated by twinkling lights. She looked regal, powerful, every inch the Morrison matriarch. Thank you all for joining us for this very special Christmas celebration. As you know, the Morrison family holds tradition in the highest regard. We value loyalty, honor, and the continuation of our legacy above all else. My legs felt weak. I wanted to run, to hide, to disappear, but my feet seemed rooted to the marble floor. This Christmas, we celebrate not just the birth of Christ, but the birth of the next Morrison heir. Patricia's eyes found mine across the room. And we acknowledge that sometimes traditional family structures must evolve to meet modern needs. What was happening? What was she doing? Rebecca Morrison has given my son the gift of an heir, a child who will carry on the Morrison name and legacy. For this, we are grateful. Grateful. The word sounded hollow, empty. But we also recognize that families are built on more than obligation. They're built on love, on genuine affection, on partnership. No, no. No, no. Vanessa Hartley has given my son something equally precious. She's given him true love, real companionship, the kind of partnership that builds empires. The room erupted in murmurs. Shock rippled through the crowd like a wave. Even people who knew about the affair seemed stunned by Patricia's public acknowledgement. And so, Patricia continued, her voice rising above the noise, we gather tonight to celebrate a new family structure, one that honors both the mother of the Morrison heir and the woman who has captured my son's heart. My vision started to tunnel. The room began to spin. I pressed my hand harder against my belly, feeling the baby shift and kick. Rebecca, Vanessa, would you both join me? Please? The request was phrased politely, but it was clearly a command. Vanessa glided forward from somewhere in the crowd, her red dress catching the light. She looked uncertain now, almost uncomfortable. I didn't move. Couldn't move. Rebecca, Patricia's voice sharpened. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Somehow, my legs carried me forward. I walked toward Patricia and the massive Christmas tree, aware of every eye tracking my movement. Vanessa fell into step beside me. We moved like two prisoners approaching the gallows. Patricia waited with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. In her hands, she held a small velvet box. This evening is about acknowledging truth, she said once we stood before her. About bringing what was hidden into the light. About creating new traditions for a new era. The room had fallen completely silent. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. 300 people held their collective breath. Patricia opened the velvet box. Inside lay a diamond bracelet that probably cost more than most people's cars. It caught the Christmas lights, throwing rainbow prisms across her hands. For the woman who has earned my son's devotion, Patricia announced. She lifted the bracelet from the box and held it out. To Vanessa. Vanessa's hand trembled as she extended her wrist. Patricia clasped the bracelet around it with careful precision. The diamonds glittered obscenely. Thank you, Vanessa whispered. She looked genuinely uncomfortable now, almost apologetic. Then Patricia turned to me. From her pocket, she produced another box, smaller, cheaper looking. And for the one who provided the heir, she opened it to reveal a simple pearl necklace, the kind of thing you'd buy at a department store. Serviceable, maternal, dismissive. The contrast was deliberate, cruel, a public declaration of our respective values to this family. Patricia didn't offer to put the necklace on me. She simply held it out, waiting for me to take it. My hand moved of its own accord, took the box, held the cheap pearls that represented my worth. Thank you, I heard myself say. The words tasted like ash. Patricia's smile widened. Wonderful. Now, Rebecca, I think a gesture of grace is in order. A show that you understand your position in this new family dynamic? The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting, watching. What kind of gesture? My voice sounded distant, disconnected from my body. Patricia's eyes glittered in the Christmas lights, cold, calculating, merciless. Neil, she said softly, thank Vanessa for bringing happiness to your husband. The words hung in the air like a blade poised to fall. Time seemed to stop. The Christmas lights blurred into stars. The room tilted on its axis. She couldn't be serious. She couldn't be asking me to. But the expectation in her eyes was clear. The watching crowd waited with bated breath, and Nate stood nearby, saying nothing. His silence was permission. Kneel, while 7 months pregnant, in front of 300 people, to thank my husband's mistress. The word echoed in my skull like a death sentence. Kneel. I looked around the ballroom, searching for someone to stop this, to say it had gone too far. To intervene. Some guests looked horrified. Mrs. Winchester had her hand pressed to her mouth. Julian Foster, the family attorney, had gone pale. Emma was pushing through the crowd, trying to reach me, but Patricia's security staff blocked her path with subtle efficiency. Others looked fascinated, hungry for the spectacle. Mrs. Chen leaned forward in her chair, eyes bright with anticipation. Most simply waited, champagne glasses poised at their lips, to see what I would do. This was entertainment to them, dinner theater with real blood. I turned to Nate. Surely he would stop this. Surely there was some line even he wouldn't cross. But he just stood there, hands in his pockets, expression neutral, watching, waiting. His silence was worse than words. It was permission, encouragement, complicity. "I can't," I whispered. My hand went to my belly, feeling my baby kick. "I'm pregnant. I can't." "You can." Patricia's voice hardened like steel wrapped in silk. "Or you can leave this house with nothing. No settlement, no support, just you and a baby you can't afford." The threat hung in the air. Real, tangible, possible. I thought of my trust fund. Comfortable but not substantial. Enough to live on, but not enough to fight the Morrison legal machine. Not enough to match their endless resources. Not enough to protect my child from their reach. "The choice is yours, dear," Patricia continued, her smile never wavering. "Grace and dignity, or poverty and struggle? What kind of mother chooses poverty for her child? They're really doing this. They're breaking me in front of everyone. And I'm letting them." My inner voice screamed the truth I couldn't say aloud. I looked at Vanessa. She had backed up a step, clearly uncomfortable. She was shaking her head slightly, as if to say she didn't want this either. But she didn't speak, didn't stop it. No one was going to stop it. The descent to my knees was the longest moment of my life. I had to bend carefully, one hand on my belly, the other braced against the floor. My pregnant body made it awkward, painful. The green velvet of my gown pooled around me like spilled wine. Someone gasped. The sound echoed in the silent ballroom. Someone else laughed, quickly stifled, but I heard it, high-pitched and cruel. The marble was cold against my knees, hard, unforgiving. Christmas lights swam in my vision, blurring into abstract patterns. From this angle, I could see everyone's shoes, designer heels and polished Oxfords, Italian leather and French silk, the kind of footwear that cost more than most people made in a month. I looked up at Vanessa. She towered above me now, the power dynamic physically manifest. Her red dress seemed to glow in the Christmas lights. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. Just that. "I'm sorry," but she didn't help me up, didn't refuse the tribute, just stood there, accepting what Patricia demanded. The words stuck in my throat. I couldn't do it. Patricia cleared her throat. A warning, a reminder of the consequences. I thought of my baby, of the life growing inside me, of the future I wanted to give this child. "Thank you." The words came out barely above a whisper. "Thank you for bringing happiness to my husband." Silence. Absolute silence. The kind of silence that pressed against your eardrums and made your heart pound. Then Patricia clapped. Once, twice, 3 times. "Wonderful," she said brightly. "What grace, what dignity. This is how ladies handle difficult situations." Slowly, mechanically, others began to clap. Applause rippled through the ballroom like a disease. I remained on my knees, unable to move, unable to process what had just happened. Nate finally approached, extended his hand to help me up, as if he was being chivalrous, as if he hadn't just watched me humiliate myself at his mother's command. I stared at his hand for a long moment. Then I pushed myself up without his help. It took 3 attempts. My pregnant belly made it difficult, ungainly, but I managed. I stood, swaying slightly, the cheap pearls still clutched in my fist. My knees ached from the marble. My heart felt like it had been ripped from my chest. "There now," Patricia said, dismissing us both with a wave of her hand. "That wasn't so difficult. Was it now? Shall we continue with the festivities? I believe dinner is about to be served." The crowd began to disperse. Conversations resumed. The string quartet started playing again, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't just been publicly broken. I walked, didn't know where I was going, just needed to move, needed to get away. My legs carried me toward the coat room, a small space off the main hall where guests stored their wraps and bags. I stumbled inside and let the door swing shut behind me. Fur coats surrounded me, designer wraps, the smell of expensive perfume and new leather. The detritus of wealth that suddenly seemed obscene. I sank to the floor, fully clothed, 7 months pregnant, utterly broken. The pearls slipped from my fingers and clattered across the hardwood. Tears came then, hot and fast, silent sobs that shook my whole body. I pressed my fist against my mouth to keep the sounds in. What kind of person does this? What kind of person kneels? The answer was simple and devastating. A person who's been systematically broken down. A person who's been told she's crazy so many times she started to believe it. A person who's lost herself completely. I sat there among the coats, feeling my baby move inside me. Each kick felt like an accusation. You let them do this. You knelt. You thanked her. Time passed, minutes or hours. I couldn't tell. Then the door opened. I looked up, expecting Emma, or maybe Grace, finally breaking free from whatever held her back. Instead, Santa Claus walked in, not a costume performer. The actual mall Santa from the children's photos earlier in the evening. Older man, probably in his 60s. Kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. A very real, very white beard. He looked at me with such compassion that fresh tears spilled down my cheeks. "Mrs. Morrison," he said quietly, his voice nothing like the jovial persona he'd worn for the children. "I think you should know, I'm not actually Santa." I almost laughed. The absurdity of it all. Of course he wasn't Santa. Santa didn't exist. Magic didn't exist. Happy endings didn't exist. "I know," I managed to say. "No, I mean..." He closed the door behind him and crouched down to my level, careful of his costume. "I'm Detective Marcus Webb, Financial Crimes Division." I stared at him, processing the words but not understanding. "I've been investigating your husband," he continued, his voice low and serious, "for 9 months now." Detective Marcus Webb looked nothing like Santa Claus once you knew the truth. The kind eyes remained, but there was steel beneath them now. Intelligence. Authority. The red suit suddenly seemed like the disguise it was. "Financial Crimes Division," I repeated numbly. "You're investigating Nate for securities fraud, money laundering, embezzlement from Morrison Industries." Marcus glanced at the closed door, then back at me. The Santa suit was my cover. Perfect way to move through the house, take photographs, document evidence without raising suspicion. I tried to process this. Another layer of deception. Another secret everyone knew but me. "How long?" I asked. It seemed to be the only question I had anymore. 9 months. Since March. When we first got the tip about irregular fund transfers, he pulled out a small notebook from somewhere in the red suit. "But what I just witnessed out there changes everything." "What do you mean?" "That wasn't just cruel, Mrs. Morrison. That was coercion, emotional abuse, possibly extortion. And it happened in front of 300 witnesses, several of whom could serve as testimonies in a criminal case." The baby kicked hard, as if agreeing. I placed my hand on my belly, trying to calm the movement. "I don't understand. What does that have to do with financial crimes?" Marcus settled himself more comfortably on the floor. Santa suit rustling. Under different circumstances. It might have been funny. A pregnant woman and Santa Claus sitting on a coat room floor, discussing white-collar crime. "It establishes character," he explained. "Juries need to understand who they're dealing with. A man who would force his pregnant wife to kneel and thank his mistress? That's someone capable of anything. It supports our broader case about his willingness to manipulate and deceive." I closed my eyes. Every humiliation, every degradation, reduced to evidence, character testimony, supporting material. "But I still can't figure something out," Marcus continued. "The financial records show you have your own accounts, your own assets from your trust fund. You're not financially dependent on him. Not really. So why did you stay?" The question cut deep because I'd been asking myself the same thing. Why had I stayed? Why had I ignored every red flag, every warning sign, every screaming instinct? Because I wanted to believe the lie was better than the truth. Because I thought love could fix what was fundamentally broken. "I thought I could make it work," I said quietly. "I thought if I was perfect enough, loving enough, accommodating enough, he'd remember why he married me." "Classic abuse pattern," Marcus said gently. "The victim trying to fix the abuser by fixing themselves." "I'm not a victim." The words came out sharper than I intended. "With respect, Mrs. Morrison, what I just saw suggests otherwise." We sat in silence for a moment. The sounds of the party filtered through the door. Music, laughter, the clink of silverware on china. Dinner was being served. Tell me about the investigation, I said. What has Nate done? Marcus flipped through his notebook. He's been embezzling from Morrison Industries for at least 2 years. Small amounts at first, then larger sums. Moving money offshore through a series of shell companies. We estimate he's stolen approximately $15 million. 15 million. The number was incomprehensible. The affair, the pregnancy, the public humiliation. Marcus continued. We believe it's all a distraction, a way to keep everyone focused on personal drama while he prepares his exit strategy. Exit strategy. He's planning to flee the country, probably to a non-extradition nation. We suspect he's been setting up residency in Brazil for months. My mind raced. Nate in Brazil, with $15 million, with Vanessa. And Vanessa? I asked, though part of me already knew the answer. Marcus's expression darkened. She's not just a mistress, she's an accomplice. Been helping him move the money, create the shell companies? The romance is theater. They're business partners. Of course they were. Of course the affair was fake too. Everything was fake. Every word, every gesture, every promise. All calculated, all planned. My hands went numb. The baby did a complete flip inside me, as if trying to escape. Everything I thought I knew dissolved like sugar in hot tea. Her real name is Vanessa Hartley Bradford, Marcus continued. She's done this before. Married a billionaire in Hong Kong, helped him hide assets, divorced him and took half. The husband died under suspicious circumstances a year later. Insurance fraud was suspected but never proven. She's a criminal. She's a professional. This is what she does. Finds wealthy men, helps them commit fraud, takes her cut. I thought of her uncomfortable expression when Patricia demanded I kneel, her whispered apology. All of it was fake. Performance. She was probably thrilled I'd degraded myself. I can't prove it yet, Marcus admitted. I need more time, more evidence, access to offshore accounts and encrypted communications. But what he did to you tonight, Mrs. Morrison, that shows character. That reveals the kind of man we're dealing with, and juries care about character. The door handle rattled. We both froze. Rebecca, Grace's voice came through the door. Are you in there? I saw you come this way. Marcus stood quickly, helping me to my feet with surprising gentleness for a man in a Santa suit. Can we trust her? He whispered. I thought of Grace's white-knuckled grip on her wine glass, the tears in her eyes, her careful silence throughout the evening. I don't know, I admitted. I don't know who to trust anymore. Then be careful what you say. Marcus moved toward the window, preparing to leave through the garden. But Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask you something important. Well, what? How well do you know your husband's business accounts, his passwords, his filing system? I thought of Nate's study, the laptop he left open sometimes, the passwords he used our anniversary, my birthday, variations he thought were clever. Pretty well, I said slowly. Why? Because I need access, real access, to the computers, the files, the offshore account information, everything. His eyes met mine, intense, serious. I can't get a warrant without more probable cause. But you're his wife. You have legitimate access. You want me to help you build a case against my husband. I want to offer you a choice. Marcus pulled a business card from his pocket, plain white, just a name and number. If you decide you want justice, if you decide you want to fight back, call me. We'll figure out the rest together. The card felt heavy in my hand, weighted with possibility, with revenge. This could be dangerous, Marcus warned. If he suspects you're working with law enforcement, he already humiliated me in front of everyone we know, I interrupted. What more can he do? Marcus looked at me with something like respect. Mrs. Morrison, I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen a lot of abuse, a lot of manipulation, but what happened out there tonight, that was one of the cruelest things I've ever witnessed. The words broke something loose inside me. Validation I didn't know I needed. I'm not crazy. There was always something wrong. I just couldn't name it. Mrs. Morrison. Grace's voice came again, more urgent. Please, I need to talk to you. Marcus tipped his Santa hat. Think about it, but don't take too long. He's planning to move soon, maybe within weeks. He slipped out the window into the December night, red suit disappearing into shadows and snow. I stood there for a moment, holding the business card, feeling the baby move inside me, feeling something else stir too. Not just anger, not just hurt, power. I opened the door. Grace stood there, mascara running, hands shaking. Becca, I'm so sorry. I should have stopped them. I should have. Come in, I said quietly. Close the door. She did, looking confused, worried. I held up the business card. Grace, I need you to tell me everything you know about Nate's business dealings. Every secret, every lie, everything. Her eyes widened. Why? What are you going to do? I thought of kneeling on that marble floor, of thanking Vanessa, of every degradation, every humiliation, every lie. I'm going to destroy him, I said simply. But I need your help. Grace stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Destroy him, Becca? Out there, you. I knelt. The words came out flat, matter of fact. I let them break me in front of everyone. I thanked my husband's mistress while 7 months pregnant with his child. That's what I'm saying. You're not in any position to. I'm in the perfect position. I sat down on a trunk near the window, my pregnant belly making the movement awkward. They think I'm broken, compliant, the perfect victim. They'll never see me coming. Grace wiped at her mascara-stained cheeks. What happened to you in here 5 minutes ago? You were crying on the floor. I met someone who gave me information, someone who can help. I held up Detective Webb's card. But I need more than information. I need proof, evidence, access to things I can't get alone. What kind of things? Nate's computers, his files, bank records, offshore account information. I watched Grace's face carefully. Everything you have access to as his sister. Grace sank onto the trunk beside me. You want me to spy on my own brother? I want you to help me stop him before he destroys more lives. She was quiet for a long moment. Outside, snow had started to fall. Through the window, I could see it drifting down in the garden lights. Perfect. Pristine. Deceptive. There's something I need to tell you, Grace finally said. Something I should have told you months ago. My heart clenched. More secrets. More lies. Vanessa isn't who she claims to be. Her real name is Vanessa Hartley Bradford. She's been married before, to a Hong Kong billionaire who died under suspicious circumstances. There was talk of insurance fraud, but nothing was ever proven. I didn't tell her I already knew. Let her think this was news. She's done this before. Becca, the affair, the manipulation, the money. She's a professional con artist. And Nate, Grace's voice broke. Nate knows. They're partners, business partners, pretending to be lovers. How long have you known this? 3 months. I hired a private investigator after I started getting suspicious. He found her real identity, her history, everything. 3 months. While I'd been planning the nursery, choosing names, imagining our future. But there's more, Grace continued. She pulled a USB drive from her purse. I've been documenting everything. Photos, emails I found on the family server, evidence of the planned divorce, the offshore accounts, even conversations about she stopped, unable to continue. About what? About having you declared mentally unfit after the birth. The words tumbled out in a rush. Using tonight as evidence. The kneeling. They were going to claim it showed instability. Use postpartum depression as an excuse. Take the baby. Give Nate full custody. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the trunk to stay upright. They were going to take my baby. The kneeling wasn't just humiliation. It was premeditation. Evidence for court. Everything clicked into place with horrible clarity. The public nature of tonight's degradation. The 300 witnesses, the careful documentation. It was all planned, all calculated. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. Grace looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Because you're my sister. Becca, blood or not. You're more my sister than Nate ever was my brother. And because what they did tonight crossed every line I have, I can't watch it anymore. I won't. Validation whispered through me like a prayer. I'm not the villain in this story. I'm not the one who needs to be fixed. What's on the drive? I asked. Everything. Bank statements from the Cayman accounts, emails between Nate and Vanessa about moving the money, the prenup Nate never told you about, the one that gets voided if he's proven unfaithful. She pressed it into my hands. Real estate papers for the house he bought Vanessa in Sao Paulo. All of it. Sao Paulo, Brazil, just like Detective Webb said. There's also video, Grace added quietly. From tonight, I recorded the whole thing on my phone. The kneeling, Patricia's speech, everything. I looked at the USB drive in my palm. So small, but it contained the power to destroy them. Grace, if you do this, Patricia will never forgive you. Nate will turn the whole family against you. You'll lose everything. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I already lost everything that mattered the day I stood by and watched them break you. At least this way I get it back. My self-respect, my integrity, my sister. The word hit me harder than any of tonight's cruelties. Sister. Before I could respond, the door burst open. Patricia stood there, face like carved stone. Behind her, I could see two of her security staff. Well, she said coldly, isn't this cozy? Patricia's presence filled the small coat room like poison gas. She stood perfectly still, but her fury radiated outward in waves. I wondered where you'd disappeared to, Rebecca and Grace. I should have known you'd be here. You always were weak when it came to misplaced sentiment. Grace stood, placing herself between me and Patricia. What Nate did out there was wrong. What you orchestrated was unconscionable. Unconscionable! Patricia's laugh was sharp as broken glass. I orchestrated a smooth transition, a civilized arrangement, something that benefits everyone involved. You made her kneel. Grace's voice shook with rage. You made a pregnant woman kneel and thank her husband's mistress? How is that civilized? I made her face reality, something you've always been too cowardly to do. Patricia's eyes shifted to me. Get up, Rebecca. You look ridiculous sitting there like some wounded bird. I stayed exactly where I was. Felt the baby kick against my ribs. Felt something new rising in my chest, not just anger, but clarity. You can't speak to her like that, Grace said. I can speak however I wish in my own house. And you, Grace, can leave if you don't like it. In fact, I suggest you do. This doesn't concern you. She's my family, Grace said quietly. More than you ever were. The words hung in the air like a declaration of war. Patricia's face transformed into something ugly. The society mask cracked, revealing the cruelty beneath. Family. She's an incubator, a womb with legs. The only reason we tolerated her this long was for the air she's carrying. Each word was designed to cut, to wound, to reduce me to nothing. But I'd already been reduced, already been broken, already knelt on marble floors and thanked my replacement. There was nothing left to take from me. I stood up slowly, one hand on my belly, felt the weight of the USB drive in my pocket, felt Detective Webb's business card tucked in my bra. You're done, I said to Patricia. My voice came out steady, clear. All of you, the party's over. Patricia laughed, actually laughed. You think you can threaten us? You who just knelt like a dog in front of the whole city. You have no power here. Rebecca, you never did. I think, I said carefully, feeling my way through each word, that I have something you want very badly. This baby, your heir, your legacy. The smile dropped from Patricia's face. And I think you just gave me proof, in front of 300 witnesses, that you're unfit to be anywhere near my child. Silence. Complete and total silence. Patricia's eyes narrowed. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? I took a step forward. The movement felt powerful. Right. You made me kneel. You humiliated me. You threatened to take my baby. All in public. All witnessed. All documented. I saw the calculation in her eyes. The realization that she'd overplayed her hand. Grace has been recording, I continued, voice growing stronger. Every email, every plan, every cruel conspiracy, it's all documented now. all preserved. Grace pulled out her phone, held it up. Should I send the video to the Chronicle? I'm sure they'd love a story about the Morrison family Christmas traditions. Patricia's face went white, then red. You treasonous little bitch. That's my sister you're talking to, I said, and the word felt powerful on my tongue. And she's done nothing but tell the truth, something this family seems incapable of. You think the truth matters? Patricia's voice dripped venom. You think anyone will care about your feelings? You're hurt, you're nobody. Rebecca, a trust fund brat who married above her station? The only thing that matters is that baby, and we will have access to our grandchild one way or another. No, I said simply. You won't? We'll see what the courts say about that. Go ahead, take me to court. Let's have a judge review tonight's events. Let's have a jury hear about the kneeling, the emotional abuse, the conspiracy to have me declared unfit. I felt myself standing straighter, taller. Let's put it all on the record. Patricia's hands clenched into fists. You have no idea what you've started, girl. No idea what we're capable of. Actually, I said, I have a pretty good idea. Fraud, embezzlement, money laundering. Should I go on? Her face went slack with shock. Just for a second. Then the mask came back. But I'd seen the crack. I don't know what lies you've been told. Not lies, evidence, bank statements, offshore accounts, shell companies. Your son is a criminal, Patricia, and you've been helping him. Prove it. I will. I pulled out Detective Webb's card, held it up. With help from the Financial Crimes Division. The color drained from Patricia's face completely. Behind her, the security staff shifted uncomfortably. You're bluffing, she said, but her voice wavered. Am I want to test that theory? Want to call my bluff and see what happens? Grace moved to stand beside me. United front, sisters in truth if not in blood. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, my voice calm and clear. I'm walking out of this house tonight. I'm taking my child, my trust fund, and every piece of evidence Grace has gathered. And you're going to let me go. Or what? Or I call every society reporter in that ballroom and tell them everything. The affair, the mistress, the kneeling, the conspiracy. Let's see how the Morrison name survives that scandal. The library clock in the next room began to chime. Midnight. 12 clear notes. Christmas Day. A new beginning. This isn't over, Patricia hissed. Yes, I said quietly. It is. I walked toward the door. Grace fell into step beside me. Patricia didn't move to stop us, but her voice followed us into the hall. You'll regret this. Rebecca, both of you. You have no idea what you've unleashed. I turned back to look at her. This woman who had orchestrated my humiliation, who had tried to steal my child, who had thought I could be broken beyond repair. The only thing I regret, I said, is not doing this sooner. Then I walked away, head high, hand on my belly. Grace's hand on my elbow. Behind us. Patricia's rage filled the coat room like thunder. But we kept walking. We didn't make it far. Patricia's voice rang out across the mansion, commanding and cold. Security! Stop them! Two large men in dark suits materialized from the shadows. They didn't touch us, but they blocked the hallway, a wall of muscle and obligation. Mrs. Morrison has asked you to stay, one said politely. Perhaps you'd like to reconsider your departure. Grace squeezed my elbow. They can't hold us here. This is kidnapping. This is my house. Patricia's voice came from behind us. She'd followed us into the hall, heels clicking on marble like gunshots. And you're both overwrought, emotional, making rash decisions you'll regret. I turned to face her. The only rash decision I ever made was trusting your family. How dare you? Patricia's composure finally cracked completely. After everything we've given you, the house, the lifestyle, the position in society, you should be grateful we tolerated you at all. Tolerated me, you used me. As a broodmare, as entertainment, as a punching bag for your sick family dynamics. People were emerging from the ballroom now, drawn by the commotion. I saw Nate pushing through the crowd, Vanessa trailing behind him. Emma was there too, phone in hand, recording everything. Good. Let them all see this. You've always been weak, Grace, Patricia said, turning her venom on her daughter. But treason against your own blood for her? She is my blood, Grace shot back. More than you ever were. You know what blood is. Mother, it's the thing you're supposed to protect, nurture, not weaponize. How poetic, how touching. Patricia's smile was cruel. And how utterly pointless. You think you can betray this family and walk away unscathed? You think there won't be consequences? I'll take the consequences. Grace's voice didn't waver. At least I'll be able to sleep at night. Nate reached us then, slightly out of breath. What's going on, Mother? What's happening? Your wife is making a scene, Patricia said. Your sister is helping her. They seem to think they can threaten us. Nate looked at me with something like concern. Rebecca, you're upset. You're not thinking clearly. Why don't you sit down? Let's talk about this rationally. Rationally? I almost laughed. You want to talk rationally? You who forced me to kneel in front of your mistress. You want rational? He had the grace to look uncomfortable. That was Mother's idea. I didn't. You didn't stop it. You stood there and let it happen. Your silence was permission. I stepped closer to him, close enough to see the guilt flicker across his face. But here's what you don't know. Nate, your silence gave me clarity. Your cruelty gave me strength. You thought you were breaking me, but you were actually setting me free. Something shifted in his expression. Calculation replaced discomfort. What are you saying? I'm saying the party's over. The game's done. I know everything. Nate, the fraud, the embezzlement, the offshore accounts, Brazil, all of it. His face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. And so does she. I pointed at Vanessa, who'd gone very still. Your business partner, your accomplice. The woman you're planning to flee the country with once you've stolen enough money. Gas rippled through the growing crowd. Phones came out. People started recording. Let them. Let the whole world see. That's insane, Nate said, but his voice shook. You're having some kind of breakdown? The pregnancy hormones? Don't you dare! My voice cut through his excuses like a knife. Don't you dare blame my sanity, my hormones, my anything. I am seeing clearly for the first time in years. Patricia moved to stand beside her son. United front. This is slander. Rebecca, actionable slander. Our attorneys will what, sue me for telling the truth? I pulled out Detective Webb's card again. Go ahead. Let's have discovery. Let's put everything under oath. Let's see who's really committing crimes here. Detective, Nate's voice cracked. What detective? As if on cue, Marcus Webb stepped out from the crowd, still in his Santa suit, but the friendly demeanor was gone. In its place was pure authority. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice carried across the hall, I'm Detective Marcus Webb, Financial Crimes Division. I have a warrant for the arrest of Nathaniel Morrison. The hallway erupted into chaos. Nate tried to run. Vanessa screamed. Patricia actually stumbled backward, catching herself on a console table. But Marcus moved with surprising speed for a man in a Santa suit. He caught Nate by the arm, spun him around, and within seconds had him in handcuffs. Nathaniel Morrison, you're under arrest for securities fraud, wire fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. Marcus began reading the Miranda rights while Nate struggled uselessly. You have the right to remain attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. More officers poured in through the front door. Real police, not security staff. They moved with practiced efficiency, securing the scene. One of them approached Vanessa. Vanessa Hartley Bradford, you're also under arrest as an accomplice to fraud and for suspected involvement in the death of your previous husband, Charles Bradford. New evidence has come to light. Vanessa's scream could have shattered glass. This is ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about, Nate. Tell them. But Nate was too busy being read his rights to respond. Patricia stood frozen, watching her carefully constructed world collapse around her. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked old, defeated. This can't be happening, she whispered. This can't be real. It's very real, Marcus said, guiding Nate toward the door. And Mrs. Morrison Sr., you should know that we'll be investigating your involvement as well. Conspiracy. Aiding and abetting. Obstruction of justice. We'll be in touch. As officers led Nate and Vanessa away, I stood in the center of the chaos and felt absolutely calm. The eye of the hurricane. Grace squeezed my hand. Becca, you did it. You actually did it. We did it, I corrected. Sisters. Emma pushed through the crowd, still recording on her phone. Holy shit. Becca, do you know what you just did? This is going to be the biggest story of the year. Good, I said. Let everyone know what the Morrison family really is, what they're capable of. Let the truth come out. Julian Foster, the family attorney, approached cautiously. Mrs. Morrison, I think we should discuss your legal options. The prenup, the trust fund, custody arrangements. Not now, Julian. We'll talk tomorrow. But the media will let them. I looked around at the phones capturing every moment, at the society guests who'd watched me kneel and were now watching my triumph. Let them see all of it, the humiliation and the justice. Let them know that you can be broken and still rise. You can be on your knees and still stand taller than your oppressors. Sarah Mitchell, my doctor, appeared at my elbow. Rebecca, I think you should sit down. The stress, the baby. I'm fine, I said, and I was. Despite everything, I felt stronger than I had in years. Marcus returned from the police cars. Mrs. Morrison, we'll need you to come down to the station tomorrow. Give an official statement. Go through the evidence you have. I'll be there. I held up the USB drive Grace had given me. With everything you need, he nodded, respect clear in his eyes. You were right to investigate your instincts. Mrs. Morrison, they led you straight to the truth. As the police cleared out, taking Nate and Vanessa with them, the party guests began to leave. Some looked shell-shocked, others excited by the drama. All of them pulled out their phones, already spreading the news. By morning, everyone would know. The Morrison empire would crumble. The carefully constructed facade would be revealed for the lie it was, and I would be free. Grace and I walked toward the door together. Emma followed, still recording, documenting every moment for the story she would write. As we stepped into the December night, snow began to fall. Perfect, pristine Christmas snow, like something from a movie. Where to? Grace asked. My apartment, I said. The one I'd kept even after marriage. The one Nate called wasteful and unnecessary. The one that was about to become my sanctuary. The one on 5th Street. The one that's just mine. Grace smiled. Perfect. Huh. We walked to the car, leaving the Morrison mansion behind, leaving Patricia standing in the wreckage of her family's reputation, leaving the party guests to their gossip and speculation, leaving it all behind. My phone rang as we pulled away from the curb. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Morrison, this is Thomas Webb, Detective Webb's son. I was the photographer tonight. The photographer for the children's photos. With Santa, I was working undercover with my dad. He paused. And I think you should know I got everything on camera. The kneeling, Patricia's speech, the arrests, all of it. High resolution, perfect lighting, complete documentation. I closed my eyes, feeling tears slip down my cheeks. Not sad tears, relief tears. Thank you, I whispered. No, Mrs. Morrison. Thank you. What you did tonight standing up to them, fighting back that took incredible courage. You should be proud. After I hung up, Grace looked at me. Everything okay? Everything's perfect, I said. We have photographs, video, physical evidence, testimony, everything we need. For the criminal case, for everything. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling the baby move. Strong kicks, determined kicks. For custody, for the divorce, for making sure they never hurt anyone else the way they hurt us. Emma leaned forward from the back seat. This story is going to change everything. Becca, are you ready for that? Was I ready for the media attention, the scrutiny, the judgment I thought of kneeling on that marble floor, of thanking Vanessa, of every moment of degradation and pain? I'm ready, I said. Let them look. Let them judge. I have nothing to hide anymore. Nothing to be ashamed of. Damn right, Grace said fiercely. You're a survivor, a fighter, a warrior. I smiled, watching the Morrison mansion disappear in the rearview mirror. I'm a mother, and I will protect my child from them, whatever it takes. The snow fell harder, covering everything in white, erasing the old, making way for the new. We drove through the snowy streets in silence for a while. Grace at the wheel, Emma in the back documenting everything on her phone, and me in the passenger seat, one hand on my belly, feeling my daughter kick. Daughter. I was having a daughter. I'd known for months but had told everyone we wanted to wait, wanted the surprise, but there were no more secrets now, no more lies. It's a girl, I said suddenly. The baby. I'm having a daughter. Grace's eyes filled with tears. You knew this whole time. I wanted one thing that was just mine, one secret they couldn't corrupt or control or use against me. Emma made a sound between a laugh and a sob. Hope. You should name her Hope. Hope. The word resonated deep in my chest. Hope Grace, I said, trying it out. Hope Grace Morrison. Grace for the sister who stood by me. Hope for what comes next. Grace pulled the car over, put it in park, and hugged me as much as my pregnant belly would allow. We sat there crying and laughing while snow accumulated on the windshield. I'm so sorry, Grace whispered, for not stopping them sooner, for not being stronger. You were exactly strong enough when it mattered, I told her. You chose truth over family. That's the hardest choice there is. Emma's phone buzzed, then mine, then Grace's, all at once, like a coordinated attack. We looked at our screens. The story was already breaking. Photos from the party, video clips, witness statements. The Morrison family Christmas disaster was trending nationwide. Holy shit, Emma breathed. It's everywhere. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, The Times. Everyone's picking it up. I scrolled through the headlines. Morrison heir arrested for fraud at Christmas party. Pregnant wife humiliated before husband's arrest. Morrison family Christmas from charity to charges. The photos were devastating. Me on my knees, Vanessa looking uncomfortable, Patricia's cruel smile, and then the arrests. Nate in handcuffs, Vanessa screaming, the Morrison empire crumbling in real time. How do you feel? Grace asked quietly. Seeing it all out there? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Vindicated, I said finally. Every instinct I doubted, every fear I suppressed, every moment I thought I was crazy, it was all real. And now the world knows it too. We drove the rest of the way to my apartment in thoughtful silence. The snow had stopped, leaving the city covered in pristine white. Christmas lights twinkled in windows. Families gathered in warm houses, normal lives, normal Christmases. Soon, I would have that too. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it that morning. Small but elegant. Mine in a way the Morrison mansion never was. I'd bought it with my trust fund before the marriage, and Nate had never been able to take it from me, though he'd tried. Thank God you kept this place, Emma said, looking around. He wanted you to sell it, right? Said it was wasteful to maintain two residences, that I should trust him to provide for me. I laughed bitterly. Turns out my instinct to keep something of my own was exactly right. Grace helped me out of my coat. What happens now legally? I mean, tomorrow, I meet with Detective Webb, give my official statement, hand over all the evidence. I sank onto my sofa with relief. Julian will handle the divorce proceedings. The prenup is void since Nate was unfaithful, and with his arrest, custody shouldn't be an issue. And Patricia, Emma asked, what about her? If she was involved in the fraud, she'll face charges too. If not, she'll have to live with what she did, what she orchestrated. I touched my belly. Either way, she'll never get near my daughter. My phone rang again. This time I recognized the number. Detective Webb. Mrs. Morrison, I wanted to give you a heads up. The media is outside your apartment building. Someone tracked your location. Are you safe? I looked out the window. Sure enough, news vans were pulling up, cameras, reporters. The circus had followed me home. I'm fine. Grace and Emma are with me. Good, don't talk to them tonight. Not until you've given your official statement and consulted with your attorney. They'll twist anything you say. I understand. And Mrs. Morrison, what you did tonight took remarkable courage. I want you to know that. After I hung up, I turned to Grace and Emma. We're about to be under siege. So we hunker down, Grace said firmly. Order food, ignore the cameras, wait them out. I'll start writing the story, Emma added. The real story, not the sensationalized version they'll run. Your story, in your words, when you're ready. But something was nagging at me. A loose thread I couldn't quite identify. What about the other people at the party? I asked. The ones who saw what happened. What are they saying? Emma pulled up social media on her phone. Let's see. What we found was stunning. The guests weren't silent. They weren't complicit. They were speaking out. Helen Winters had posted, I witnessed emotional abuse tonight. I did nothing. I will carry that shame forever. But I'm speaking now. What the Morrisons did to Rebecca was unconscionable, Julian Foster tweeted. I've represented the Morrison family for 20 years. As of tonight, I no longer do. Some lines should never be crossed. Even Sarah Mitchell, who'd gossiped in the bathroom, had posted, I stood by while a pregnant woman was humiliated. I told myself it wasn't my business. I was wrong. Rebecca Morrison deserves better. We all deserve better. One by one, the witnesses were coming forward, not to defend the Morrisons, to condemn them. They're turning on the family, Grace whispered, scrolling through post after post. Everyone, the whole social circle. Shimmer, because what happened tonight was too much, I said. Even for people used to tolerating cruelty, there's a line, and Patricia crossed it. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Morrison, this is Claudia Chen. I want to apologize for my comments in the bathroom earlier, and I want you to know I'm willing to testify about what I heard, what I saw, what they planned. Please let me help make this right. More texts followed, more offers of testimony, more apologies, more support, people I barely knew reaching out, offering help, offering solidarity. This is incredible, Emma said. Becca, you're not alone in this. You have an army? The doorbell rang. We all froze. Reporters, Grace asked. I checked the security camera feed on my phone. A familiar face stood in the hallway, looking nervous and determined. Vanessa's assistant, a young woman named Sophie who'd always been kind to me at family events. It's Sophie, I said. Vanessa's assistant. Don't let her in, Grace warned. It could be a trap, but something in Sophie's expression made me pause. She looked scared, desperate. I pressed the intercom. Sophie. Mrs. Morrison, please, I need to talk to you. I have information about Vanessa, about all of it. Please. I looked at Grace and Emma. They both shook their heads, warning me. But my instincts, the same instincts that had been right all along, told me to listen. Come up, I said. Sophie burst through the door moments later, mascara running, hands shaking. Thank you. Thank you for seeing me. I didn't know where else to go. Sit down, I said. Tell me what's happening. Sophie collapsed into a chair. Vanessa isn't who she says she is. I mean, you know that now, but it's worse than you think. The Hong Kong billionaire Charles Bradford. She didn't just help him hide money. She killed him. The room went silent. She told you this? Emma asked, phone already out, recording. I overheard her talking to someone on the phone, bragging about it, about how easy it was, how no one suspected. She was planning to do the same to Mr. Morrison once they got to Brazil. Do the same to Nate, I clarified. You mean kill him? Sophie nodded, tears streaming down her face. Once the money was transferred, once they were safely out of the country, she was going to make it look like an accident, keep everything for herself. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I can't be part of it anymore. Because what she made you do tonight, the kneeling, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't say anything. I just stood there like everyone else. Sophie looked at me with desperate eyes. And because she threatened me, said if I ever talked, I'd end up like Charles. I'm scared, Mrs. Morrison. I'm so scared, Grace called Detective Webb immediately. Within 20 minutes, officers were at my apartment, taking Sophie's statement, recording everything. adding murder conspiracy to the charges. This changes everything, Detective Webb said after Sophie left with protective custody. If we can prove premeditation, if we can connect the dots between Charles Bradford's death and her plans for your husband, she'll go away for life. I finished. At minimum. And your husband, as an accessory to conspiracy to commit murder, he's looking at decades, not years. After the police left, the three of us sat in stunned silence. It could have been you, Emma said quietly. If you'd stayed, if you'd gone along with their plan, once the baby was born and you were declared unfit, she would have killed me too, I said. The realization settled over me like snow. To eliminate any claim to Nate's estate, to clear the path for her and Hope. Hope, my daughter, who would have been raised by a murderer. You saved yourself, Grace said, and Hope, you saved both of you. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling Hope kick strongly. We saved each other. The night wore on. The reporters outside eventually dispersed, moving on to other stories, other scandals. The social media posts continued. The support continued, and in my small apartment, with my sister and best friend beside me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. Around 3 a.m, Emma fell asleep on the couch. Grace dozed in the armchair. I sat by the window, watching snow fall on the sleeping city, feeling hope move inside me. Tomorrow would bring statements and lawyers and media circuses. Tomorrow would bring the beginning of a long legal battle. Tomorrow would bring challenges I couldn't yet imagine. But tonight I was free. As dawn approached, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I whispered to my daughter, "You're going to be born into truth. Hope, not lies. You'll know your mother stood up, fought back, refused to be broken." Hope kicked in response. Agreement. I like to think, too. And I promise you, I continued, I will spend every day of your life showing you what strength really means. Not the Morrison version, manipulation and cruelty dressed up as power. Real strength, the kind that kneels and still rises, the kind that breaks and still heals, the kind that loses everything and gains itself. The sun rose fully, Christmas morning light streaming through the windows. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas Webb, the photographer. "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Morrison. I'm sending over the photo files, all of them, for whatever you need. You earned this victory. Merry Christmas." Merry Christmas indeed. I looked at Grace, sleeping peacefully, at Emma, curled up with her phone still in her hand, already dreaming of the story she would write. My family. Not the one I was born into or married into. The one I chose. The one that chose me. Merry Christmas. Hope, I whispered to my belly. Welcome to our new life. 3 months passed in a blur of legal proceedings, media interviews, and preparation for Hope's arrival. The Morrison empire crumbled exactly as predicted. Nate's trial was set for the following year. Vanessa was being extradited to Hong Kong to face murder charges. Patricia was under investigation for conspiracy and fraud. And I was free. My daughter was born on a bright March morning, exactly 2 weeks before her due date. She came into the world screaming, angry at the interruption, demanding to be heard. She was perfect. "Hope Grace Morrison," I whispered as the nurse placed her in my arms. "You are so loved." Grace stood beside the hospital bed, tears streaming down her face. "She's beautiful. Becca, absolutely beautiful." Emma was there too, of course, documenting it all. Not for publication, this moment was private, but for Hope. So she'd always know the truth of her beginning. Dr. Sarah Mitchell delivered her. The same woman who'd gossiped in the bathroom at the Christmas party had become one of my strongest advocates. She'd testified at preliminary hearings, written statements, used her position and reputation to support my case. People could change. I'd learned. People could choose better. "She has your eyes," Sarah said, smiling, "and your strength. I can see it already." The first few weeks were hard. Sleepless nights, feeding struggles, the normal challenges of new motherhood compounded by ongoing legal battles and media attention. But I wasn't alone. Grace moved into my apartment temporarily, helping with night feedings and diaper changes. Emma visited daily, bringing food and supplies and fierce protection from the outside world. Julian Foster handled the legal proceedings with surprising tenderness. The prenup was indeed voided. Nate's assets were frozen pending the criminal trial. The divorce moved forward smoothly. Patricia tried to sue for grandparents' rights. The judge took one look at the evidence, the kneeling, the conspiracy, the plan to have me declared unfit, and denied it permanently. She would never see Hope, never have the chance to poison another generation. 1 month after Hope's birth, I received an unexpected visitor. Detective Marcus Webb, now retired, stopped by with his son Thomas. Thomas brought his camera, but this time for joy, not evidence. "I wanted to meet the little one who started it all," Marcus said, holding Hope with surprising gentleness. "And to see how you're doing." "We're good," I said, and I meant it. Really good. "The trial starts in 2 months, Marcus reminded me. "Are you prepared for that?" "As prepared as I can be." Julian says the case is solid. With Sophie's testimony, the financial evidence, and everything from the Christmas party, they don't stand a chance, Marcus finished. "Your husband is going away for a very long time. Vanessa even longer." "Good," I said simply. There was no satisfaction in it. Exactly. Just relief. Justice. Thomas took photos of Hope, of Grace and Emma fussing over her, of the small apartment filled with love and laughter. Real photos. Not the staged, perfect images from my Morrison days. These were messy and real and beautiful. 2 months later, the trial began. I testified for 3 days, told everything. The emotional abuse, the gaslighting, the systematic breaking down of my sense of reality. The Christmas party, the kneeling, the defense tried to paint me as bitter, vindictive, a scorned woman seeking revenge, but the evidence spoke for itself. Bank records, emails, witness testimony from 50 different people who'd attended that Christmas party. Sophie's detailed account of Vanessa's murder plans. Charles Bradford's suspicious death being reopened with new evidence. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Nate was sentenced to 25 years. Vanessa to life without parole in Hong Kong for murder, with additional decades to be served in the U.S. for fraud and conspiracy. Patricia was convicted of conspiracy and obstruction, 5 years, which at her age might as well be life. The Morrison empire was liquidated. The mansion sold, the business dissolved. Everything the family had built on lies and manipulation and cruelty was dismantled piece by piece. And from the ashes, something new emerged. Grace started a nonprofit helping women escape abusive relationships. She used her inheritance, the portion that wasn't seized in the criminal proceedings, to fund shelters, legal aid, counseling services. Emma wrote a book. The Christmas I Knelt became a bestseller, raising awareness about emotional abuse and coercive control. She donated the proceeds to Grace's nonprofit. Sarah Mitchell started a practice specializing in supporting pregnant women in crisis. She never charged me a cent for Hope's delivery, calling it her penance for staying silent too long. And me, I returned to school, finished the degree I'd abandoned when I married Nate, got my master's in psychology with a focus on trauma recovery, started working with Grace's nonprofit, helping other women find their strength. But mostly, I focused on raising Hope. On Hope's first birthday, we threw a small party, just Grace, Emma, Sarah, Marcus, Thomas, and a few other friends who'd proven themselves true. No elaborate decorations, no string quartets, no champagne fountains, just cake and laughter and love. Hope took her first steps that day, wobbly and uncertain at first, then increasingly confident. She walked from Grace to me, arms outstretched, face split in a huge grin. "She's fearless," Emma observed, recording it all on her phone. "She's her mother's daughter," Grace said. I caught Hope as she tumbled into my arms, both of us laughing. Looking at her face so full of joy, so free from fear or trauma or pain, I felt something settle deep in my chest. Peace. "What are you thinking?" Grace asked, seeing my expression. I looked at the people gathered in my small apartment. Not the mansion, not the ballroom. This small, real space filled with people who actually loved me. "That I'm grateful," I said honestly. "For all of it?" Emma asked. Especially the kneeling," I interrupted. "Because that's when I learned the most important lesson of my life." What lesson? I held Hope close, feeling her warm weight against me. Real, solid, mine. That you can be on your knees and still rise again. You can be broken and still be whole. You can lose everything and gain yourself. I looked at each of them. You taught me that. All of you. Hope taught me that. We just showed you what was already there, Grace said softly. The strength was always yours. Outside, snow began to fall. 1 year exactly from that Christmas night. Perfect timing, like the universe marking an anniversary. But this snow was different, not covering lies and cruelty, just beautiful, pure, new. Should we make a toast? Emma asked, raising her glass of sparkling cider. Yes, I said, lifting Hope onto my hip and raising my own glass. To new beginnings. To family, Grace added. Real family. The kind we choose. To truth, Sarah contributed. And healing. To justice, Marcus said quietly. To women who kneel and rise. Emma finished, her writer's voice finding the perfect words. We clinked glasses, the sound echoing softly in my small apartment. Hope clapped her hands, delighted by the noise, by the attention, by the love surrounding her. I thought about the woman who'd walked into that Christmas party a year ago, 7 months pregnant, desperate to please, willing to ignore every warning sign to maintain the illusion of a perfect life. I thought about kneeling on that marble floor, the cold, the humiliation, the breaking, and I thanked her. That woman's surrender became my salvation. That humiliation became my liberation. That breaking became my breakthrough. You know what the best part is, I said aloud. What, they asked in unison. I looked at Hope, who was trying to grab my glass, determined and fearless. She'll never know what it's like to make herself smaller, to doubt her own reality, to kneel for anyone's approval. Because you're teaching her different, Grace said. Because I learned it myself, the hard way. I kissed Hope's forehead. But I learned it, and she'll grow up knowing the only person's approval she needs is her own. The snow fell harder outside, covering everything in white, starting fresh, beginning again. My phone buzzed, a news alert. The Morrison case was officially closed. All appeals denied. Nate would spend the next quarter century in prison. Vanessa would never be free. Patricia's empire was dust. It was truly over. Read this, I said, showing them the screen. Emma smiled. How does it feel, seeing it finished? I thought about it, really thought about it. Like closure, I said finally. Like the end of one story and the beginning of another. Hope squirmed in my arms, wanting down. I set her on the floor and watched her toddle around the room, exploring, discovering, fearless. She's going to be amazing, Sarah said. She already is, I replied. Because she's growing up with truth, with love, with people who will never ask her to kneel for anyone. As the party continued around me, laughter and joy and real connection, I stood by the window with my daughter, watching the snow fall. I thought about that night 1 year ago. The worst night of my life. The best night of my life. The night I lost everything I thought mattered and gained everything that actually did. The sound of breaking glass echoed in my memory. But it wasn't from that night. It was from this moment, this present. Hope had knocked over an empty glass. It rolled across the floor, unbroken but making noise. Grace laughed. She's got your dramatic flair. She's got her own flair, I corrected, picking up the glass. Her own strength, her own story. And she would. Hope would never be defined by what happened to her mother. She would never carry the weight of my trauma or my past. She would be free in ways I'd only recently discovered. Free to be herself, completely, unapologetically, fearlessly. To new beginnings, I repeated, raising my glass again as Hope clapped her hands. Everyone raised theirs in response. The glasses caught the light, throwing rainbow prisms across the walls, like Christmas lights, but better, real. As we drank, I felt the final piece of the old Becca fall away. The woman who knelt, the woman who broke, the woman who shattered. She was gone now. Transformed into someone new, someone stronger. Not because she'd never broken, but because she'd learned that breaking wasn't the end. It was the beginning of becoming who she was always meant to be, and somewhere, in a prison cell, Nathaniel Morrison was learning that the wife he tried to break became unbreakable. The woman he forced to kneel now stood taller than ever. And the Christmas when he thought he'd won everything was the night he lost it all. But I wasn't thinking about him anymore. I was thinking about hope, about grace, about Emma and Sarah and everyone who'd stood by me. I was thinking about the future. Our future. Mama, Hope said, her first clear word. She'd been babbling for weeks, but this was different, intentional, real. Mama, my heart swelled. I picked her up, held her close, breathed in her baby smell. Yes, sweetheart, I'm your mama, and I promise you I will spend every day of your life teaching you to stand tall, to trust yourself, to never ever kneel for anyone's cruelty. Hope grabbed my face with both hands and laughed. Pure joy, pure trust, pure love, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that everything I'd endured was worth it because it led me here, to this moment, to this child, to this life, a life built on truth instead of lies, on strength instead of submission, on love instead of control. The snow continued to fall outside, covering the city in fresh white, erasing the old, making way for the new, just like me, just like Hope, just like all of us who'd learned that the hardest falls can lead to the highest rises, that the deepest breaks can create the strongest repairs, that kneeling doesn't make you weak, rising does, and we had risen, together. Merry Christmas, I whispered to Hope, though it was March. Welcome to our beautiful, messy, real, true life. She smiled at me, grabbed my hair, and laughed, and in that laugh, I heard everything I needed to know. We were going to be okay, better than okay. We were going to be extraordinary, because we were free, finally, completely, beautifully free. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever felt gaslit, diminished, or forced to make yourself smaller, I need you to know you're not alone. And your instincts, they're probably right. Hit that like button if Becca's journey resonated with you. Drop a comment telling me what moment hit hardest. Was it the kneeling, the detective reveal? The moment she finally stood up, I read every single one. And your stories matter. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's doubting themselves. Someone who needs permission to trust their gut. Sometimes, a story is the push someone needs to save themselves. And subscribe, because next week, I'm bringing you another story of survival, strength, and sweet, sweet justice. The kind of stories they don't want you to hear. The kind that remind you breaking isn't the end. It's the beginning. Remember, you can be on your knees and still rise again. I'll see you in the next one. Retry.